Hello all, this is Halloween, and today we will be visiting the Whispering Souls Cemetery located in Clearwater, Florida. I wanted to make a video just of this cemetery alone because there's so much significance to it. It is an all-colored cemetery, but it was abandoned for quite some time and recently was deeded to a nonprofit organization who cleaned it up and made it what it is today. Now you can go visit it. It's not overgrown. They've located most of the tombstones, or I wouldn't say most of them, but some of them were lost in the poor maintenance of the cemetery for so long, but they've managed to find as many as they could and try to restore its integrity. So I wanted to make this a video all by itself. I didn't want it to share this video with any other cemetery. I kind of wanted the spotlight on just the Whispering Souls Cemetery because it's overcome so much over the years. I'll see you there. I'm here at the Sandwich on Main. It's one of my favorite places to eat in Safety Harbor. Let's go in and have a bite to eat. My GPS says it's a 5-minute walk from the Sandwich on Main to the cemetery. And it's a beautiful day in Safety Harbor. It's a little warm, but I can handle that. I'm from Florida. If I can't handle a little heat, I should get out of the kitchen. Beautiful church behind me. If you do come to Florida, or if you're visiting Florida or the Tri-County area, here, St. Petersburg, Clearwater, Tampa, any of those locations, definitely visit Safety Harbor. It's very scenic. All the little houses are so beautiful. There's a lot of really nice plants and flowers, and it's very well landscaped.
In 300 feet, take a left on Main Street.
Also, here in downtown Safety Harbor, it's a great place to get a bite to eat. They have a lot of different restaurants, Mexican restaurant, any kind of cuisine you could want, they pretty much have it here. And all the places are really good. They have their own brewery if you like beer. So a lot of cool things to do here in Safety Harbor, and the weather's just gorgeous today, so I was like, be silly to drive, you know. I'm already parked. The cemetery that we're going to is in the middle of a neighborhood, so I don't know what the parking situation's gonna be like. So if you're looking for the Whispering Souls Cemetery, it's gonna be hard to find. I haven't found it yet, and Google Maps sent me on a wild goose chase. So it walked me to the mobile gas station on Main Street in Safety Harbor, and you can walk around the entire gas station and you don't see a cemetery. I'm still looking. If I find it, I will definitely tell you where it is. I'm now walking back to my car. I tried typing in the address the first time. I just typed in Whispering Souls Cemetery and it took me to a mobile gas station. So when I typed in the address, it said it's a 7-minute drive. So I'm gonna try that and let you know if it works. I found it. I'm here at the Whispering Souls Cemetery. Established sometime in the 1800s. This cemetery has a little gate, but no fence around the perimeter of the cemetery. You'll be able to see that. You could just walk right in. It's open. But this cemetery is basically one, it's much like Old Trilby Cemetery. It is a colored cemetery or African American cemetery, and it's pretty much been an abandonment for a number of years while the neighborhood here was built up around it. It was abandoned, and nobody really knows of its existence other than the people that live here and maybe people like myself who research these kinds of things. But it's pretty much unknown to most people. Like they don't even know that it's here. Recently, the 6th Judicial Court granted ownership of this property here to a nonprofit organization who cleaned it up, took care of it, and made it once again a well-kept and maintained cemetery. My car is parked here on the side of the road, and behind me is the very small cemetery located right in the middle of a neighborhood. Looks like a house could be, here. Like it's a property a couple homes would be built on, because it's right in between two houses. And I could probably take pictures of every plot in here. That's how few there are. It's a very small cemetery. Now, looking down here, this is very reminiscent of the cemetery in Tarpon Springs that I went to, Rose Hill Cemetery. They have these little plaques on the grounds, and I'm wondering if this is to, much like the Rose Hill Cemetery, signify any unmarked burials that are here. This one says, "Live life to the fullest, for life is all too short." So, it could be another project like that schools did around the community to bring awareness to the cemetery, and that there are perhaps a lot of unmarked graves here. But you'll see these, which is really cool, I think. Got some little artists in the community here. Kind of cool. There is a huge project going on right now as we speak to hopefully bring light to these African American cemeteries that have gone abandoned over time and even been built upon. I think Janet Cruz is actually instrumental in leading the charge for that community project, where they are actually going out to different locations known to have burials on the grounds, trying to find these hidden burials and marking them again, and maybe moving some of the bodies and trying to restore the integrity of these colored cemeteries, because over the years, somehow and for some reason, they just got abandoned. It's really nice to see the community coming together for good causes like that. Not too long ago, in 1953, this cemetery was so overgrown with weeds and debris and brush that nobody even knew that there was anything here. Neighbors just moved in around the cemetery, and they would move into homes around here, and they didn't even know. Everything was covered up. You couldn't even see one grave marker. They just thought it was an empty piece of property. I think it was in '97 when the American Legion took notice, because there are veterans buried here. The American Legion led a volunteer project to clean up the grounds and restore integrity of this cemetery. I'm going to take some still shots. This is the whole cemetery. It is probably about you could put two houses on this piece of land with a backyard and a front yard. So that's about how big the property is. I don't know the acreage of that, but maybe 1 acre or less. You can see it's all these capsule style burials. It's beautifully shaded. It's a really nice piece of property. And it's a cool, breezy day. It's hot if you're standing in the sun, but if you're in the shade, it's nice and breezy and beautiful. Here are more of those tiles. They're around every tree on the property. I would imagine that there are several unmarked graves here because it went unkept for so long. I think that some of the markers probably have been, have deteriorated, rotted, been moved, or so on and so forth. Now, for all of you ghost hunters out there, or investigators of any kind, this would be a good one to come to, because it's not gated off or anything like that. It seems like you could just come at any time and walk around. As you're walking around in this cemetery, you're going to be walking atop many graves without knowing it. Because, like I said, over the years, the headstones have been misplaced or have broken down. You know, it was just in such a bad state of disrepair that there are many unmarked graves here. You'll also notice that some of the capsule style burials, which I've told you is very common in the colored cemeteries, they're not marked at all. There's no names on them at all. And I don't know if that's just from being weathered over the years and the cement breaking down and just not reading anything anymore, or if they never did have anything there. It's very interesting. A lot of history here. This actual area at one time was owned by the McMullen family. They owned the area, but nobody ever took ownership for the maintenance and upkeep of this particular piece of property. Whilst knowing it was a colored cemetery, no one person ever really took ownership. Therefore, that is why it became so overgrown and unkept, and really got abandoned for a long time. When the McMullens owned this property, the cemetery had a different name. It was called the Safety Harbor Colored Cemetery. At one point, the name of it changed to Whispering Soul, what it now is today, and has maintained that name. I can't help but think as I walk through here and wonder how many people are actually buried here. There's not even an exact date as to when it was established. It was sometime in the 1800s. So this is going to be one of the oldest colored cemeteries in the state of Florida, for sure. Just because of, you know, the way it was kept, and, you know, nobody really ever taking ownership. It's uncertain as to what year the burials started, but it was, I would say, probably mid 1800s, maybe even before that. They just basically just started burying people here before it was even ever established a cemetery. So it's got a lot of history. I came and I saw. Not much to see. Like I said, there's really no way of knowing even just how many burials are here. They really did a nice job of cleaning it up. Looks like they did as well as they could as far as locating whatever headstones that they could. They're probably not even placed in the right spots anymore, but it just looks like they found whatever they could and they put it wherever they could to commemorate those who have passed. It's always a shame to have lost such a great piece of history, but at the same time, I'm really glad that they're making an effort to bring back the integrity of these cemeteries, because they deserve recognition too. But I'm headed out of the cemetery. Hope you enjoyed today's visit. And it was actually not that hard to find. So what you just have to type in the address. Don't just type in Whispering Souls Cemetery, because it'll take you to the mobile gas station on Main Street in Safety Harbor. And it is not walking distance from the Sandwich, but it's not far from, it's only about a 7-minute drive from the Sandwich on Main. That is nearby if you want to grab a bite to eat. And toodles. We have a visitor. It's my kitty cat, Maceo. Isn't he so cute? Anyway, thank you so much for joining me today at the cemetery. Like I said, this is a short video. I didn't want to share it with any other cemetery. Normally when I go to a small one, I might try to squeeze another one in. There is another one that's very close to this cemetery that I will be visiting as well. That will be for next week's episode. But for this one, I just wanted it, you know, the Whispering Souls to be all by its lonesome. If you loved this video, please remember to like, subscribe, and share the video. It definitely helps me out, helps the channel out. That does it for this episode. We'll see you next time.